Welcome back to Kamikaze Overdrive MMA predictions for UFC on Fox. Velasquez versus Dos Santos. This event will take place live on November 12th from the Honda Center in Anaheim, California. It will be a free event, and on television we will see one fight, and it's quite a fight. The main event, Cain Velasquez, the heavyweight champion, putting his title on the line against #1 contender Junior Dos Santos. Preliminary-wise, there are 9 prelim fights headlined by Clay Guida and Ben Henderson battling a lightweight contest, which could very well determine the next man to challenge for the lightweight title. Those fights will be available on Fox.com and Facebook. For this prediction show, I'll be doing an in-depth prediction for Dos Santos versus Velasquez. It's a little bit longer because it's a heck of a tough prediction to make. An in-depth prediction for Clay Guida, Ben Henderson, and also for Dustin Poirier, Pablo Garza. The rest of the fights will be breaking down, but obviously in a little bit more condensed form. Before getting into those predictions, MMABettingOdds.com, again, please check that site out. A fantastic site providing you some insight and some tools to help you with all your betting needs and to see where, to give you insight as to where you should be placing your money. Secondly, Sports Interaction, the official betting sponsor of Kamikaze Overdrive MMA predictions. Please check out Sports Interaction. As you can see in the video, odds are posted for this fight already for Clay Guida, Ben Henderson, and Velasquez Dos Santos. Check them out. They have some very good betting options, some prop bets that are always come available, and they continue to expand their MMA betting options. So please, sportsinteraction.com, please check them out. And UFC on Fox will be the start of our second round. UFC 138 has not taken place yet. It will bring to an end our first round of events. As I said, Fox kicks off the second round, 16 competitors advancing to the second round. It'll be UFC on Fox, UFC 139, and the Ultimate Fighter finale for our 14 finale, which will comprise our second round. So please get your picks in. You will be getting lots of emails when it comes out. The first opening event, which was UFC 137, was fantastic. It was really quite a fun thing to do to start the tournament off with. UFC 138, hopefully I'm still going to the tournament. We'll see. I don't know yet. It was a tight first round. But either way, good luck to all the competitors. Get your picks in ASAP. And that's enough for me. Let's get on to the predictions. We'll kick it off with all the prelims. All right, it's time to get to my preliminary picks. Again, there are 9 prelims on the event. I'm breaking 7 down in this fashion. Let's kick it off in the light heavyweight division as Aaron Rosa takes on newcomer Matt Lucas. Rosa lost his UFC debut to Joey Beltran, and he's decided to drop down to light heavyweight. And I said Matt Lucas will be making his debut while riding a 5-fight winning streak. Both men have heavy hands, but Lucas is a solid wrestler with good takedowns. Rosa weighed in at 259 pounds for his last bout and seemed to slow down as the match progressed. I anticipate that he could have trouble getting down to 205, and if Lucas uses his wrestling, he will wear him out. I'll take Matt Lucas in a bit of an upset to defeat Aaron Rosa by stoppage. Next up, Mike Pierce takes on Paul Bradley. In 2009, these two met in a close fight that Pierce won by decision. Following that matchup, Pierce made the jump to the UFC, going 4-2, dropping decisions to John Fitch and Johnny Hendricks, the latter being a split. Bradley had a short stint in Strikeforce, going 1-1, including a defeat versus the middleweight champion Luke Rockhold. He was also defeated in his UFC debut. Pierce has fought better competition and made the greater improvements. I'll take him to win this fight again by decision. Moving now, Cole Escovedo versus Alex Caceres. Caceres is making the cut to bantamweight after starting his UFC career at 0-2. Well, Escovedo has had similar issues, dropping his first 2 bouts with the company. It isn't much of a stretch to believe that the loser of this fight could get their walking papers. Escovedo has far more experience and has fought the superior competition, while Caceres in all reality is simply a holdover from the Ultimate Fighter, and he's also fighting a lower weight class for the first time. Caceres has suffered 4 submission defeats in only 9 career fights, while Escovedo has the majority of his wins by submission. I've got the veteran Escovedo to win this by tap-out. Next, Mackham Semenzer versus Robert Peralta. This is a tough fight to call. Semenzer has solid striking, but is also good on the mat, with 5 of his 6 wins by submission, while Peralta has 11 wins by knockout and showed devastating leg kicks in his last bout against Mike Lulo. Peralta has good takedown defense, shutting down 18 of the last 23 attempted takedowns. When Peralta battled Hiroki Takeya in Strikeforce, Takeya had success using his grappling, but lost a very close decision. Semenzer has completed 64% of his takedowns, and Peralta has been submitted twice, so he is vulnerable on the mat. From what I've seen, Semenzer has more dimensions, he will hold his own on his feet, and will use his grappling to earn a close decision victory over Peralta. Now, Kid Yamamoto versus Darren Yumanyoma. Yamamoto was once considered a top fighter in the world, but over his last 4 bouts, he has dropped 3, including his UFC debut, where he was soundly defeated by Demetrius Johnson, who used his takedowns to control the fight bell to bell. Yumanyoma Yuma only has 9 career bouts, ending 3 by submission. Darren has decent takedowns. He won a grappling tournament at the 2010 UFC Expo, and he's gone 3-0 when he battled in Strikeforce. Yamamoto is a striker with serious KO power, but has suffered 15 takedowns on 27 attempts over his last 3 defeats. Yuma has serviceable striking, but I don't expect him to stand and trade with Kid Yamamoto. He will follow the blueprint left by Demetrius Johnson and use his grappling. I'll take an upset, Darren Yuma to win by decision. Clay Harvinson versus DeMarcus Johnson. Harvinson has gone 1-1 since his time on The Ultimate Fighter, with his lone win a contestable split decision. He is primarily a striker that has shown vulnerability to being taken down, and he has suffered 2 defeats by submission, including his last bout. Johnson, also a former Ultimate Fighter, was defeated by Amir Sadallah after taking that fight on short notice. This dropped his UFC record to 3-3. Both men have solid striking. Johnson has a slightly longer reach and is a BJJ blue belt if the fight does go to the ground. DeMarcus has gone 3 for 5 in takedowns over his last 2 bouts, while Harvinson got taken down 7 times by Justin Edwards in his debut. I'll take the veteran fighter to emerge victorious. DeMarcus Johnson wins this one by submission. Finally, Ricardo Lamas versus Cub Swanson. This is another hard fight to predict. Swanson has been away from the cage for almost a year, but has won 4 of his last 6 with the 2 defeats against the elite of the division in Jose Aldo and Chad Mendez. Lamas made a successful featherweight debut with his KO win over Matt Grice. Prior to that, he suffered a knockout defeat versus Yuri Alcantara. Lamas' striking has looked good, but Cub Swanson presents a very difficult challenge. Swanson will mix things up using his takedowns and striking, and I'm going to stick with the veteran in this matchup. I'm going to take Cub Swanson to win this fight by decision. Those are my preliminary picks. Let's get to the 3 larger picks, including the heavyweight title fight. In the featherweight division, 10-1 Dustin the Diamond Poirier will square off with 12-1 Pablo the Scarecrow Garza. Now, both men are undefeated since dropping to 145. Poirier has won his last 3 overall, and Garza's on a 2-fight winning streak. As I said, both men have started their UFC careers on the right foot. Of their combined 4 wins, Poirier has the most significant, derailing Josh Grisby, who accepted the fight with Poirier while waiting for Jose Aldo to recover from an injury. Garza's 2 UFC victories have come in impressive fashion. He connected with a flying knee 51 seconds into his debut, knocking out Fredson Payayo, and he followed that performance up by catching Yves Jabouin with a flying triangle. In each victory, he earned the appropriate performance bonus. Garza is a BJJ blue belt, earning 7 of his career victories by tap-out, but his lone defeat also came as a result of a submission. At 6'1", Garza is a tall featherweight and is able to use his long limbs to control his opponent on the mat. He has a solid guard and constantly threatens off his back with submissions. On the negative side, he doesn't have the wrestling skills to take his adversary to the ground. For the most part, he will either pull guard or wait for his opponent or rely on his opponent to take the fight down. In his Ultimate Fighter qualifier match at lightweight, Garza got taken down at will by Michael Johnson and got beaten up from bell to bell. Dustin Poirier is a BJJ purple belt and will take his opponent to the mat. In his last bout, he took his opponent down multiple times using both a body lock and a trip. Against Josh Grisby, he had success controlling Grisby on the mat. Conversely, Josh Grisby did find some success late in that bout with his grappling, earning a takedown and threatened with a couple of submission attempts. Poirier will have to be wary of this against Garza, especially with the Scarecrow's ability to create submissions off his back. Now, Poirier has the majority of his wins by knockout at 5, while Garza has 2. Both men have solid leg kicks, but each has had issues in the past with their opponent's leg strikes. Garza got dropped twice by Yves Jabouin's low kicks, and Jason Young did a lot of damage to Poirier's lead leg with a sharp inside kick. Both men will use the tie clinch. Garza uses to set up the flying triangle and has also used solid knee strikes. Poirier will attack with knees as well and has some solid boxing in tight. The difference in the striking exchanges is going to be the intensity of Poirier. He attacks with smooth combinations, throwing an overwhelming amount of strikes, which force Grisby to continually cover up. In his last 2 appearances, Poirier has combined for 200 strikes landed, while Garza seemed to really struggle with the aggression of Jabouin's striking. In that bout, Yves had a lot of striking success despite Garza's 5-inch reach advantage. Jabouin used his kicks to create openings and then followed behind with his boxing. In this matchup, Garza will be taller, but he will not have a reach advantage, which should give Poirier an edge, as Garza is used to having this reach over his opponent. Poirier's striking defense is vulnerable, as he tends to hold his hands low, leaving openings for counters. Poirier is still a young fighter that I expect will improve from one fight to the next, and I think that his striking will be the difference in this bout. Garza's ability to pull off miracle moves is something you really do not want to bank on, so my prediction is Dustin Poirier to defeat Pablo Garza by knockout. The co-main event of the evening will be a lightweight bout between Clay the Carpenter Guida, 29-8, and former WEC lightweight champion Ben Smooth Henderson, 14-2. Henderson has won 2 in a row and is coming off a victory over Jim Miller, while Clay Guida has won 4 in a row, earning earning a decision win over Anthony Pettis, the last man to defeat Henderson. The winner of this fight could very well be granted the next opportunity to battle Frankie Edgar for the lightweight title. Both men have held titles before. Henderson is a former WEC champion, while Clay captured the Strikeforce title back in 2006 before losing it to the current champion Gilbert Melendez. This will be Clay's second opportunity to earn a UFC title shot. He dropped a split decision to Diego Sanchez, who then went on to challenge for the title after that fight. This fight could steal the show, as these two athletes have combined for 9 fight bonuses, and Clay has taken part in 2 Fight of the Year contests. Looking first at Guida, he is predominantly a wrestler that wins the majority of his fights by out-hustling his opponent and forcing him to work at a pace they simply aren't comfortable with. 15 of his 29 victories have come via submission, including 3 of his last 4. Clay's striking isn't technical. He prefers to brawl, as we saw in the Sanchez fight. In that matchup, Clay struggled with Diego's aggression as Guida was forced into exchanges while his back was on the cage. Against heavy-handed Takanori Gomi, Guida used constant movement to avoid Gomi's strikes. He does a nice job setting up his attacks. Against Pettis, he used a kick to set up both a big right hand and a takedown. On the negative side, Clay has had issues with distance and technical strikers. Kenny Florian's ability to remain composed and not brawl limited Clay to 19% striking accuracy, and his struggles to close the distance against Gomi saw Guida only land 16 of 69 strikes. Ben Henderson has seemingly taken his performance to another level since arriving in the UFC. Stylistically, his first 2 opponents have served as excellent preparation for a matchup with the Carpenter. In his debut, Ben took on grappling ace Mark Bocek. Henderson successfully stopped 7 of 11 takedown attempts, and even though Bocek's style is vastly different from Guida's, Mark's reliance on takedowns is quite similar. When Ben defends a takedown attempt, he uses underhooks to control his opponent's upper body, spreads his legs to create a wide base, and turns his adversary into the cage to limit their space. If his opponent is able to get him to the mat, Ben is incredibly flexible and quite strong, which allows him to escape bad positions, and against Bocek, he used an armbar submission attempt to sweep his opponent. Adding to his defensive skills, Ben is incredibly difficult to submit, having defended 22 submission attempts over his last 6 bouts. Ben's own wrestling game has proven hard to defend. He has completed 10 of his last 11 takedown attempts, and against Jim Miller he went a perfect 7 for 7. On top, he uses body on body to maintain control, has damaging strikes, especially when he's able to posture up, and he has 8 career submission wins. On the feet, Ben possesses a lightning-fast jab and has heavy leg kicks. In the clinch, he will punish his opponent with knees to the body, and when he creates separation, he batters his adversary with strikes. He does only have 2 knockouts, which includes a win over Shane Roller at WEC 40. What this fight comes down to is Clay Guida's ability to get the fight to the ground and then maintain control when he gets it there. In his defeats against Florian and Sanchez, he only completed 22% of his takedowns, while in his last 4 wins he landed 50%. Ben Henderson has excellent composure and cardio, so he won't be overwhelmed by Guida's pace. Henderson is also a big lightweight that should be able to defend Guida's shot and get back up if he finds himself on the mat. If Guida can't get the fight down, Henderson's reach and superior striking technique will give him a significant edge. Look for Ben to punish Guida on his takedown attempts and even turn the tables on the Carpenter by taking him down and dominating him in a similar fashion to the Miller fight. Clay is tough to finish, so I have Ben Henderson to defeat Clay Guida by decision. In the main event of the evening, heavyweight champion Cain Velasquez, 9-0, will put his title on the line against 13-1 Junior Cigano dos Santos. Velasquez is returning after his victory over Brock Lesnar, while Junior defeated former contender Shane Carwin in his last appearance. This heavyweight title tilt pits together 2 fighters with excellent striking technique. Both are abnormally quick for heavyweights. They also have solid endurance, and each man can hold their own on the ground. Physically, they match up very well. Each has a 77-inch reach. Dos Santos stands 3 inches taller, but the champion will slightly outweigh him. There is no real edge in experience. Junior has 14 fights compared to Cain's 9, with 7 octagon appearances each. Both have taken on some of the biggest names in the business. Junior did start his career against a higher caliber of opponent, but Cain quickly caught up. Statistically, they have 8 knockouts apiece, all of Junior's coming in the first round, while the champion had to go into the second frame twice. Dos Santos' last 2 opponents did take him the distance, while Chet Congo was the only man to force Velasquez to the scorecards. Cigano has tasted defeat once, suffering a submission loss back in 2007, while the champion is undefeated. Junior has arguably the best hands in the heavyweight division. His technique is solid, he uses a stiff left jab to set up a powerful right hook, and his speed, both hands and feet, makes him incredibly hard to defend against. His counter-striking is exceptional, dropping Gabriel Gonzaga by countering a kick with a devastating left hook. Cigano changes levels nicely, jabbing the body, and against Gilbert Yvel, he used a quick jab to the body to create an opening for a devastating left hook that dropped Yvel. His uppercuts have one-punch knockout power, as we saw against Fabricio Verdum, and he dropped Roy Nelson twice. Velasquez's striking is also quite dangerous. Against Big Nog, he rattled off an impressive combo that Nog had absolutely no defense for. Kane uses short, straight punches that flow, and he might not possess the power of Dos Santos, but his accuracy and total punches landed is impressive. Comparatively, Velasquez lands 61% of his strikes, while Dos Santos sits at 47%. Both men average a significant amount of punches per round, but again, Velasquez's numbers are slightly better at 7.05 compared to 6.79. Defensively, that edge again goes to Kane based on damage taken, but the difference is minimal. One area that Velasquez is superior is leg strikes. Junior will throw kicks, but not with regularity. Velasquez has lethal kicks and uses them far more often. Kane swivels his hips, which allows him to generate significant power, and because of his strong wrestling base, he isn't concerned with being taken down. Dos Santos is a striking specialist, but I will give him only a slight edge in this area. Now, we haven't seen a great deal of Junior's grappling game because he has excellent takedown defense at 83%. Opponents have had some success getting him to the ground. Nelson, Gonzaga, and Carwin each completed one takedown, but none were able to maintain any form of top control as Sagano quickly got back to his feet. Velasquez is a former NCAA Division I wrestler and presents a skill set that the challenger is yet to face. Kane averages almost 7 takedowns per fight and has incredible top control. His shot is hard to defend, and he is quite resourceful at getting his opponent to the ground. Both on the mat and along the cage, Kane persistently attacks, as we saw in the Czech Congo and Brock Lesnar fights. In similar fashion to Chael Sonnen, when Kane takes his opponent's back, he opts not to use the hooks. This allows him to move with his opponent and maintain a dominant position all the while attacking. Now, JDS is a BJJ brown belt, and his camp says he is excellent off his back, but without seeing him in action, I have to give the edge to Kane based on his overall skill and work ethic. Now, if Kane takes JDS down and keeps him there, this will be a huge turning point in this bout. Now, despite their dominance, both men have had moments of vulnerability. Congo tagged and buckled Kane twice with a left hand. Instinctively, Velasquez scored the takedown, but if Congo had been able to create separation like Junior is so good at, he could have done further damage. Dos Santos has made a career on finishing opponents quickly, but in the Carwin fight, Junior slowed down, and it was even more noticeable against Roy Nelson. Big Country was the first to really push the Brazilian, and it clearly took a toll on Dos Santos. Velasquez, on the other hand, arguably has the best cardio in the division and has never appeared fatigued despite maintaining such a high work rate. Adding to this, in his last two bouts, Junior did a lot of damage but was unable to finish either opponent, and Kane is faster and possesses better technique than both Nelson and Carwin. Finally, Kane is returning from shoulder surgery and over a year away from the cage, and this could greatly impact his performance. This is a very tough fight to predict, but what it comes down to is dimensions. The striking and speed is close, the grappling is Velasquez until proven otherwise, and the cardio is also in favor of the champion. If Dos Santos can't end it early, Kane will wear him out with his pressure and work rate. Most people are anticipating a knockout like they were with JDS Carwin, the Carwin fight. I originally planned to take Kane Velasquez to defeat Junior Dos Santos by decision, but on second thought, I think Velasquez will be able to wear him down and stop him in the later stages. I'll take Kane Velasquez to defeat Junior Dos Santos and retain his heavyweight title by stoppage. Alright, welcome back to Kamikaze Countdown. I want to talk about one thing because it's a very important subject. We've heard rumors about it. You kind of see a trend that's leading towards this, and I really hope not. But, the UFC might be considering trying to push it eventually, that we're going to have an event every single weekend throughout a year, and I really hope that's not the case. Right now, we're in a stretch where it seems like we have a flurry of 3-4 events in a row. We have maybe 2 weeks off, and then we get another couple events in a row. That's a lot. I think the UFC needs to concern themselves with building their pay-per-view numbers back up, putting some very solid cards together, but not oversaturating the general populace with their product. Because one of the greatest things about the UFC events is it doesn't happen every weekend. Like the NFL gets away with it because it's only a portion of the year. It's not every single weekend, throughout the year. I think the UFC will really struggle. Even if it's free events, people won't care as much, and they'll watch the free events maybe, but when it comes to pay-per-view, they're not going to tune in. I think they need to maybe focus on building up their pay-per-views, putting on good free events, but not giving us too much. This is one case where too much of a good thing is simply not a solid option. And you also look at this, they had talked about going to Japan and also having an alternative show in Las Vegas at the same time, working one as maybe a prelim or some kind of, coordination between the two. That has since been axed. I think that was an excellent idea. Again, don't do too much. Be in Japan, put on a good card in Japan, treat the fans to a fun night of fights, but don't throw a ton of fights at us too much, as I think it'll really hurt your numbers before it helps. Kamikaze Countdown. Thank you for watching. So those are my predictions for the first ever UFC on Fox event. I know the JDS Cain Velasquez prediction was very long, but it's probably one of the best fights we've had in an absolute long period of time. And there was a lot to say, so much more I didn't get a chance to say. Again, check out MMABettingOdds.com. Sports Interaction. Get your bets in there. It'd be a fantastic place to move if you're not happy with your book, or even give them a try. They have some fantastic bonuses if you click on the link in the description below. If you're doing picks, make sure you get them in again ASAP. Good luck this weekend. Of course, UFC 138 has not taken place yet. It should be a very fun event. The tournament's just heating up. Congratulations, to the people. They haven't advanced yet. By the time this video is relevant, they will have advanced and moved on to the second round, whoever they are. Hopefully, I'm one of them, but you never know. And one thing I want to talk about just quickly with the tournament, I assumed everybody would think this, but I just thought of it right now while I'm sitting here. First round and second round, the slate's wiped clean. So if you get a perfect 60 points in the first round, you start with 0 in the second round. Your points don't carry over. So again, I'll touch upon that in the email, but I just wanted to make sure. And again, get your picks in as soon as possible. I think that's enough from me. Kamikaze Overdrive MMA predictions for UFC on Fox. I'm out of here. Thank you very much for watching.